In this video, I'm going to show you the way you can generate um, views of objects using projection lines. This is sometimes called the projection method. Typically, you start with a floor plan or a view that's in top view, and you use that as the sort of base for construction of the other views. So in my layer manager, I have created a layer called projection lines. I've given it like not a super bright color, but not a really dark color also. You can choose whatever color you like. And I've also set it that so it doesn't print. The projection lines are kind of temporary lines, and I may erase them towards the end of this, but I could also just leave them on and they won't print. So I have a plan of the chair here, and what I'm going to do is begin to include some lines that I'll be using for all the side, the back, and the front views. I'll give a little bit of space below this, and what I'm going to do is make something called an X line. So a typical line, when you type L for line, you click 2 points and it generates an end point, a start point and an end point for the line. Oh, and by the way, you want to switch your current layer to projection lines. With an X line, you still pick 2 points, but instead of giving an end point and a start point, it basically runs infinitely in either direction. So this can be kind of useful when you don't know, like you're using points for projection, but you've zoomed in really close and you need to be kind of accurate and precise to pick points, but you don't want to have to scroll out and extend the lines. Anyway, when we get to more architectural subjects, you'll see how this works. But basically, I just wanted to create one. It's probably a little bit too high. I'm going to click on it, grab this grip, and move it down a little bit. All right, from the catalog, the product catalog, we don't have a lot of information about the dimensions of this, so we're going to be making some assumptions. We do know the height of the chair. It's 27 inches. So I'm going to offset my projection line 27 inches. We also know the height of the seat, which is 16. So I will use the offset command again, pick this line. And so now I have, this would be the floor. This is the top of the cushion. And this is the top of the chair itself. Now, just as a reference, so we're going to start by drawing the front view, this view here. Now, it's not going to be exactly like this because as a photograph, this view is seen in perspective. We can see a little bit of the top of the chair and the top of the cushion, but when we draw an elevation drawing or one of these kind of orthographic views, we don't see anything on top. We just see everything kind of flattened. But anyway, we have a height, we have the ground level here, we have 27 inches for the top, and we have the top of the seat, which is going to be right here. So going back to the AutoCAD file, I have those 3 lines in place. And, based on the dimensions that we use to construct the plan view, we'll use some similar dimensions. For example, the cushion, these were 3.5 units, so I'll use that same dimension. And it may not be exactly accurate, but it will work to sort of demonstrate the process. Going back to the image, so that line that I just made is this one right here. And we're going to offset that one 1.5 to get the thickness of the wood frame. So offset 1.5, and I'll come down here, do that. All right, so now I have all these horizontal lines. Sometimes we refer to them as datums. And as I construct the views, the various views of this chair, we'll be able to reuse these lines. But before I get started, I'm going to generate some projection lines from the plan view. Excel, and I'll just go around and pick every one of these. So Excel, Excel, Excel. So now I have basically everything that I need to construct this. Now, you can see the grid in the background here, and sometimes I find it's just too much visual static. So I'm going to type grid and type in off. All right, so now maybe it's a little clearer. Now, the reason I wanted to do these lines in this kind of medium value, in other words, the amount of light, is I don't want them to stand out a lot. I want to be able to see the lines that I'm going to be drawing on top of them more clearly. All right, so now I have all these projection lines. I'm going to change my layer back to 0, and I'll start to draw the chair. Right, so you may want to have an image of the chair as you draw. But okay, so now you can see as I draw on top of these projection lines, it's pretty easy to see my line work. And I'm just going to follow around these lines. Right, so that's the major profile of the chair. And I will continue with some additional line work. Let's take a look at our image again. So, when you do this, you can make some choices about things. You can see actually that these lines kind of pull all the way through. There's a joint right here. Sometimes we would make that with a lighter line, but we're going to use the same line weight through this layer 0. And I'm also going to bring this line all the way down just because that's sort of the way that the chair was designed. So I have these lines here, but I don't want to have, one line and then another line and then another line. So I'm going to eliminate a couple of these. And I'm going to click on one of these here. I'm going to click on the grip and I'm going to pull this line down. Same thing over here. Click. When lines are kind of in the same axis, you really want to just make them continuous all the way. All right, now I'll have one more line here. And as I mentioned, we're going to let the cushions on the side pull through. So these are all just regular lines, not X lines. And that seat cushion sort of sits inside the side cushion. So it's going to look like that. Now, if you kind of want to see it without all the projection lines, you could go and you could turn that layer off and take a look at it. So, there's a lot more detail to this chair. Obviously the cushions are not like super, they appear to be like very hard edged here. They're softer and, one could, put more time into making those details a little bit more realistic, but we're really just kind of working with this process of projection line work. All right, so there's the first one, the first view. And next, what I'm going to do is construct one of the other views. I'm going to turn the projection line layer back on, and I'm going to make a copy of this block, place it here, and then I'm going to rotate it. 90, I've made it. So I can draw the side view. Okay, so I'll move it over a little bit closer. And I'm going to set my layer back to the projection line layer, and I'll continue to draw some X lines. So this chair is very simple. We don't see any of these cushions from this view. If I go back to the catalog and we look at some of the images, you'll see what it looks like from the sides. You just see basically, we can kind of toggle through this. You see the wood frame coming up and around, and this line right here appears to be at the same height as the bottom of the wood frame in the front. So back in the AutoCAD file, I'll start, I'll change my layer back to 0. And I will draw the profile of the chair. Looks like I forgot to do a couple of the projection lines. I'm going to change my layer back to the projection line layer. And I guess I could have offset that one on the side, but I'll just use this as, a reference for the frame. We can see there's a leg that comes down here that we don't see from the top, but we know that that leg is also going to be 1.5 inches or 1.5 units in there. Okay. Another line that we don't have from these projection lines, and I'm going to go back to the reference of the chair. We don't have a line representing the underside of the frame, so I'll offset for that one as well. So O for offset, 1.5, and bring that down. Right, so now I can complete at least the wood frame part of the chair. Go here, and I didn't change my layer, so I'm going to click on these 3 lines that I made, and I'm going to change them to 0. Okay, I'll make that the current layer 0, and I'll finish where it meets the floor. And I'll draw a line representing that underside of the chair from the side. Okay, so that's our side view. And the last view I'm going to draw is the back of the chair, which actually looks exactly like the side, only maybe the dimensions are slightly different. I don't need to draw the left side of the chair because it's exactly the same as the right side, only mirrored. But in this case, it looks symmetrical anyways. So I'm going to make a copy of this one. I'm going to rotate it around. So I'm using the rotate command, pick a reference point, -90, and I'll move it so it is in the same line here and shift it over a little bit. Okay, now I'm ready to make more projection lines. So Excel. Okay, so you can see the dimensions are maybe slightly different than the side. And if we look at the back of the chair, again, it's the same detail. The frame just comes up and around, and we have one line that represents the underside of the chair. So I can go ahead and change my layer back to 0 and begin to draw the lines all the way around. When I have those projection lines, it makes it very easy. And you'll notice too that I have the intersection object snap selected. So on your status bar, you probably want to have this checked for this assignment, right? And those are the 3 side views, all right? And I've got these extra chairs. I don't need them. I only need one plan. And what I want to do is arrange these kind of in a 4 square. So I'm going to move this. Where should I put it? Here, and then I'm going to move it again. Now just watch how I did move P for previous, and it picked all of those. And I will move it so it aligns with the bottom of this. And you can see that the widths of the back and the side are slightly different. Can make them symmetrical if you like. If I draw a line from here up, and then I move this from midpoint to intersection, now they have a relationship. So now this drawing is ready, except we're going to add some text to explain what these various views are. Now, when you make text, we could make the text and put it directly below these drawings in model space, but it's also okay to add them in the layout view. So I think we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to click on the layout. I'm going to double click in the model space within the viewport, and I'm going to type in Z for zoom and E for extents. So it's going to bring those views in place, and I'm going to zoom again and give a little bit of room around these images. Let's see how it looks. PS. Okay, there's a lot of kind of static. The grid is showing here, even though we have it turned off in the model space. So, you may want to do a preview, print preview, to kind of get a better sense of how it looks. Okay, this is going to change here to projection drawing. And I'm going to make a copy of this text and lift it up a little bit. I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to open the properties dialog box. Type in properties. And this text we made 0.125, so that's 1/8 of an inch. We're going to make it 1/4 of an inch. 0.25. And this first one, I'm going to call it, and these should all be, well, they can be lowercase, I guess, or be consistent, either all caps or caps and lower case. Okay, when I click on it, the insertion point, as we had set up, is middle center, so that works fine. I'm going to click on that insertion point, and I'm going to place it temporarily at the middle. Then I'm going to move it down maybe 1/4 of an inch. That's a little too close. Let's bring it down another 1/4. So maybe they're all about 1/2 an inch from the object to the center of the text. Okay, so I'm going to copy this one. If you want to snap to the insertion point, turn on that object snap, copy, select objects, that's the insertion point, and then I'm going to add another insertion point, or another object snap to perpendicular. Right, and move this down an inch. This is going to be front view, this will be side, this one will be back view. I'm going to make an X line right here. So I have something to snap to. I'm going to copy these two text objects, click, and see the perpendicular symbol coming up. Can erase this X line, top view, back view. Front view, and all the side view. And that's it. Again, you might want to do a plot preview, see how it looks, and make any adjustments that you need to before printing to PDF.